everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of The Weekly Bubble. I'm your host, Duke Magnum, and with me, as always, my co-host, Squiggy.
How's it going, everybody? Before we get this episode started, we have a quick word about our sponsor.
This broadcast is brought to you by Naden Family Home. At Naden Family Home, we provide several services for individuals with special abilities. We have several group homes throughout Alaska. We also provide supportive employment and rehabilitation services. Our goal is to support our clients and to provide the highest quality of care as possible. And now, back to the show.
All right, Duke. So, from last week to this week, what do you got for the people that you've been watching, you've been reading, anything new that we can give them a little bit of news for this week?
Well, it is the 35th anniversary of Mario, and they're re-releasing the 3D games of the 3D Mario games, like with Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine from GameCube and Mario Galaxy from Wii, like going to be released all together in one game on the Switch.
Oh, wow. So it's been 35 years since Super Mario came out?
Pretty much.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. That's a long time. So, I gotta ask you this. Who's your favorite Mario character?
Oh, that's an obvious one. It has to be Mario himself.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I like Mario too. I don't know. I've always been kind of a Bowser fan. I don't know if it's bad to like the villain, but yeah, Mario's cool too. And if they haven't checked it out, we did a podcast a couple weeks ago, right? We did Super Mario versus Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah. So if you haven't checked that out, we'll try to add a link in the description so that you guys can go and check that one out. It was a pretty close call, but well, I'm not gonna spoil it. Just go take a listen.
Right.
So speaking of showdowns, I think it's a perfect time to go right into this week's Showdown.
And in this week's Showdown, we have two of America's favorite family sitcoms. In one corner, we have Family Matters. In the other corner, we have Full House. And let's see who will be the winner of this showdown. Let's get it started.
All right. So, first things first. Family Matters and Full House. Two iconic family sitcoms. Now, personally, I don't know too much about them. I did watch them when I was younger, but I don't know much about them. So, Duke, you're going to have to take the reins on this one. But I will be ready to pose all these questions for you.
All right.
So, first question that we have to acknowledge is, which cast do you think was more, not like better, but just which cast do you think worked well together, had better chemistry? There we go, that's the word I was looking for. Which cast do you think had better chemistry that made the show more appealing?
Oh, Full House for sure. Like, the characters interacted, you felt for them. There was this moments of sadness, and you could feel that, you could just feel the emotions. And like how they would get through situations, and you learned lessons from when they made mistakes, and it sometimes was really heartwarming. It could touch your heart at times.
Okay, and how'd you feel about Family Matters?
Well, I didn't feel they were on nearly that same level, and I felt more with Family Matters that they just had one character that pretty much stole the show, and I didn't feel everyone got the shine as equally. But
which character was that?
Oh, that was Steve Urkel.
Yeah, of course. Everyone knows Steve Urkel, right?
Right. And
yeah, I can agree with that. I feel like if you asked me to name characters from Full House, I could probably name a lot more than Family Matters. And I feel like it's because, they gave more attention to one character in Family Matters that kind of carried the show in a way, when Full House had a nice way of like seasoning in or sprinkling in like different situations with different characters, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, so overall cast chemistry, who do you think would take the point?
Definitely Full House.
Full House, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right, now here is the second question, round 2. 1 point for Full House, 0 for Family Matters so far. Now here's one that I feel could be a little bit debatable, a little bit controversial even. Both of these shows have led us through a lot of our like life experiences, you know, watching DJ, right, or Stephanie go through certain things, watching Urkel go through certain things. We learned a lot of different lessons from these shows, right? So our second round is, which show do you think had the better life lessons?
Oh, I would say once again Full House.
Really? Why?
Well, like they had those moments and they could play it really well when they were teaching the lesson and stuff. And like we're Family Matters, sometimes it would just be way too goofy and over the top at times.
Yeah, I feel like in a way though, that is kind of like the sitcom vibe. It should be funny and silly.
Right.
Full House, in a way, sometimes I feel like it took it to like a very dark or dramatic place.
Right.
But at the same time, I do feel like Family Matters brought something that Full House couldn't bring, in the sense of it gave us insight or perspective into a different culture.
Yes.
You know, so I feel like definitely as a kid, you know, you're kind of just experiencing or learning about your surroundings, society, the world, you know, things like that. So seeing in Family Matters, like being a family of African American descent, right?
Right.
It was
they're like in Chicago.
Yeah.
Whereas Full House, they're like in San Francisco.
Yeah, so it was a totally different environment, totally different
Culture,
yeah. So I feel like in a way, Family Matters allowed us, like, in a way you could say like a what's the word, like not insight, but like you could be like a fly on the wall, you know what I mean, like seeing what a culture that you're not part of, a family that you didn't grow up in, it was going through or experiencing, you know what I mean. So it kind of in a way helped me at least understand about what people go through that maybe I don't go through, you know, situations that I don't face that other people have to face, you know. So it definitely, I feel like, taught me in a way to sympathize, you know, or empathize even with other cultures, you know, all kinds of different people in the world, all kind of different cultures, and everybody goes through their own kind of struggles, you know. And I definitely feel like when it came to being a kid, of course, Full House, you know, like they did teach us, you know, like about different situations we may encounter going through childhood and even adolescence, right?
Yes.
But I do feel like Family Matters brought kind of like a more serious tone sometimes.
Yes, before the later seasons where it just kind of went downhill.
Yeah, so you think that overall...
Well, I'll have to... Well, because I want to give credit, because there was, like, there was one episode I remember in Family Matters where they did discuss a controversial issue that will do to different cultures and stuff that wasn't really addressed on Full House. So I'm gonna have to say that I'm gonna make this one even.
So it's a tie?
Yeah, it's a tie.
Okay, so then I think I agree, because I do remember like Full House did have a way to bring and just give you like those heartwarming, heartfelt lessons. You know, when Uncle Jesse sat down Stephanie and talked to her, you know, or it's different scenarios.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I feel like Family Matters also brought a lot of good lessons that people can learn from. So I agree with you, Duke. So we're gonna go 1-1, point for each one. So now we got Full House with 2 points overall, and Family Matters with 1 point now. Now, here is the next round. At the end of the day, as serious and as life-inspiring as they might be, right? At the end of the day, they were still intended to be sitcoms. So, part of sitcom is situational comedy. So, round 3 is, what show do you think was funnier?
Well, that's a good question, and like before I get to that, there were some points I wanted to make about them before I decided which one was funnier. Like,
okay,
here's the thing I wanted to address. Like with Full House, and this goes back to when we talked about the cast thing. Full House, they always kept the same consistent cast. It was able to add new ones in very nicely. Now, where Family Matters, like there was a couple that were left and it just created plot holes.
Oh, really? Like they switched out characters?
Well, yes, like
Aunt Viv type of thing?
Yes, like there was the actress who was a kid at the time named Jamie Foxworth, I believe was her name. And like she was all of a sudden no longer on the show, and it's like it's like there was no explanation for that
Okay.
character, and you never knew what happened. And then there was like another character, I forget her name. It's like she was like she like lived with the family with her son, but it's like she also left the show too. And
So pretty
stuff.
much they just created like a bunch of loopholes.
Yeah, a bunch of plot holes and
Sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
plot holes, loopholes.
yeah.
Sorry. So there was a lot of plot holes with that.
Yes, because it's like it just didn't make much sense to me and stuff.
Okay.
Because they didn't have any explanations, what, where, and why they weren't there anymore. It's like it could have just been left to our imaginations.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And
That could be pretty frustrating. I mean, if you've
Yeah.
invested time into the show and all of a sudden a
Right.
character's gone, you don't even know why, you know? Like,
Right.
imagine you're watching Friends and one day, like, Joey's just not there. And you're
Right.
like, what's going on? Where's he at, you know?
and they don't bother to give you an explanation.
Yeah,
and,
that's true.
And there would have been no way they could have made sense of how a little girl is not in the family anymore. There was just no way it would have made sense unless they had to go into a darker territory and stuff.
Yeah.
It would have been probably a risk worth taking, but then it would have had some closure to what happened and
Yeah,
stuff.
at least, you know, continue the storyline.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
Okay, I can see that, why that would be kind of frustrating.
yeah.
Then when it came down to it, though, the remaining characters that put on the show, right?
Right.
Who brought the funny?
Right. I will have to admit that, Full House also made you laugh. So did Family Matters. I'd have to say Urkel has made a lot of people laugh.
Yes, I feel like when it came to the humor, yeah, Urkel.
Yeah,
like,
so I think they win this point because of Urkel.
yeah, I feel like definitely Steve Urkel. I mean,
And he's also made one appearance on Full House, by the way.
oh really?
Yeah,
I didn't get to see that one.
Yeah.
I feel like Family Matters should have just been called the Steve Urkel show.
Oh, definitely.
Because pretty much like I mean, don't get me wrong, the dad was funny too, but if it came down to it, let's say you're watching Full House, right? And Full House was released if there was no Stephanie, if there was no Michelle, if there was no Uncle Joey is necessary. But let's just say like there were
Right.
other characters that even if they were not there, the show could have still carried on. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I feel like Steve Urkel, if there's no Steve Urkel in Family Matters, that's not a show.
Right. If you watch season 1 before he was on there, the show wasn't really all that great before Steve Urkel came on. See, if you watched the first season, you kind of felt like it was a cross between Full House and the Cosby Show.
Yeah, I can see
And,
that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
Steve Urkel definitely brought the what's the word? Like
He brought the energy.
the energy to the show for sure. So okay, then we'll give the point to Family Matters. So now we've got a tie.
Yes.
2 for Family Matters, 2 for Full House. Now, our next round is, which show do you think would hold up better today? Now, I know that Full House did have its own reboot on Netflix called Fuller House.
Oh, yeah, it's
right?
actually a sequel.
Yeah, it's a sequel, right? Sorry,
Yes.
did I say reboot?
Yes.
My bad. I meant sequel, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
But I'm saying if Full House, not the sequel, not Fuller House, if Full House was released today and Family Matters was released today, which show do you think would have a better crowd acceptance or would be more appealing to the people?
Well, it really depends on. It's like kind of all up to the individual what they prefer. So it's really hard to answer this one because it's like.
I mean, when you think about the sitcoms that are out today,
Right.
you know, like I know it's not out anymore, but Big Bang Theory did pretty well, right?
Right.
And you've got like a lot of sitcoms nowadays actually end up getting canceled. And
Yes.
they're not as lasting as Full House was or as Family Matters. So I'm saying like if they were to bring those shows out, let's say they had never released in the past,
Right.
and then they released in our time, in our year, this year, 2020, what show do you think would have done better? I mean, I know it's a close call, but when you think about what we see now, which show would have been more appealing? Let me ask you this: which show would you be more likely to watch first?
That's a tough call. That is really a tough call. I honestly have no idea on this. It's just very hard to answer a hypothetical because they came out in a certain time. I know that. Well, another thing Family Matters did was they had switched cast on one of the characters and stuff, and eventually, like, it was on ABC, then they moved it to CBS, and like it eventually, even though it ran for a long time, it's like I don't think they got a chance to end it the way they wanted it. So they were canceled, but Full House, they got to end it the way they wanted to end it.
I see what you mean. So you feel like the success of these shows had a lot to do with the time that they were in?
I would say so, but I would say the only downfall for Family Matters is like how unrealistic it got. Like, even though it was funny and I could see the appeal, but if someone has a realistic mindset when they watch this show, then they're not going to be fond of the unrealistic stuff in Family Matters, like where Urkel does his potion thing and he becomes his alter ego Urquell. And then, of course, there was, like, the robotic Steve he made and stuff. It just got too cartoony.
I see what you mean.
Stuff. And,
like, they were trying to, like come right to the border between cartoon and reality. Yeah, okay.
Yes, and that's what kind of takes it away. And, like, even, like, if you, like, as the seasons go on, if you, like, watch how Urkel finally has a girlfriend, like, it just, the way it came off, it didn't make sense to me why he would still be obsessed over Laura when he has a girlfriend that is like, you know, that anyone would have probably been satisfied to go on a date with or something like that.
I see what you mean.
And,
yeah, I get you. Like, it's definitely a different time now than it was back then.
Right. So. Yes, and another thing I noticed, like, when it came to friendships of characters being friends, like DJ Tanner in Full House, it's like there was that friendship between her and Kimmy Gibbler. Mm-hmm. But like when you watch like Family Matters, there was Eddie who he had a friendship with this character named Waldo, and like in like earlier episodes, like Waldo was like friends with one of the bullies or something. The way they became friends, I just didn't feel it and stuff. And the way they portrayed Waldo to be really stupid was just really like unrealistic. Like they just made him unrealistically stupid, which
like over the top.
Yeah, over the top.
Yeah,
and
I get what you mean.
Right, and I mean.
And then it can come off a little bit corny.
Yes, and it just didn't make much sense. And,
yeah, that's understandable. So so you think pretty much the humor, even like the friendships, everything kind of would be so different now? Because I feel like definitely with Fuller House, I've seen a couple episodes, and I do feel like they've definitely tried to adapt it to like modern day.
Yes.
So definitely there would have to be adjustments on like storyline and even the jokes, things like that. Right. It still is a little bit corny and stuff, you know, but I mean, what are you gonna do? Right.
Here's one point I wanted to bring up about Family Matters. I know I've been like making all these points.
No, that's good. I mean, I'm learning a lot about this show.
And if you think about it, like, okay, like Steve Urkel always going over where he's not invited, and here's what makes no sense. The father is a cop. It's like, how come he doesn't do anything about that? Have him arrested or a restraining order? And like, it's like I couldn't really imagine anyone that would really put up with that, especially if they're a cop. Like, come on.
Yeah, they should have made him like a mailman or something.
Yeah, that would have made more sense. Or it's like, why not, like, if they have all the finances, it's like, why not just move out of the neighborhood, move far from him and stuff. And just the way they like portrayed like Steve Urkel's obsession with Laura, it's like not really.
I feel like that was a common thing though.
But,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, but like it's like being desensitized to that being okay behavior.
Yeah, I get you. Like also in Sister, did you ever watch Sister? well, there was always like the neighbor Roger, right? And they would always be like, "Go home, Roger. Go home, Roger." And like he would just like sneak into their house because he liked them, you know. And then I would always think that too, like, why don't the parents do anything about the fact that this guy's always like in their closet, in their room? Like, it's like, get out of here, dude.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. If it happened to us, we wouldn't be laughing at it.
Yeah,
now, would
exactly. Like, if your neighbor was just in your house, that's kind of creepy. It wouldn't really be funny. But at that time, it was viewed as more of like a joke, you know? It was viewed as a funny situation.
Right.
So, yeah. But I get you, like, then, yeah, I guess when it comes to our time, do you think that either of these shows would be able to hold up?
Well,
if nothing changed. Of course, if they adapted to our time, definitely, I mean, they can make it fit. But
if I have to pick which one I think might do better today,
yeah,
I'm going to say Full House, just due to those reasons, how Family Matters was portrayed with the unrealism. It just, I don't think they would really hold up today and stuff.
So Full House is more relatable. So
well,
it's a little bit more timeless. I
would say
story.
a little bit more timeless to a thing. But I'm not saying that I don't want to take any credit away from certain parts of Family Matters, because they did have those moments. It was just that, like, that show eventually jumped shark, and then the show centered around Steve Urkel, and no one really got to equally shine. And that's the issue that I have in, like I said, when you got rid of some of those characters, it created plot holes.
Yeah.
Now, if they have kept a consistent cast, like, I would probably look at it in a better way.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
So point goes to Full House. So now we've got Full House with 3 points and Family Matters with 2 points. Then our last round.
Oh, did you say... wait a minute. I thought the point was for Full House. You said...
Family Matters has 2 now, and Full House has 3.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought you said Family Matters had 3.
No.
Okay, that's what I was just a little lost.
Yeah, you're good. And now for our final question and last round of this showdown. If someone who has never seen any of these shows asked you, Duke Magnum, which show should I watch first? Which show do you recommend more? Which of these 2 shows is the more appealing, all-around enjoyable show? What do you say?
I'm going to have to say Full House.
There it is.
Yeah.
The last point, giving it to Full House with a whopping 4 points, and Family Matters with 2. Now, of course, both of these shows are great shows. We recommend you check both of them out, definitely. However, Full House will definitely bring something to the table that is just a whole different experience, you know?
Right.
So if you haven't watched these shows, check out Full House. They're great lessons if you want to watch it with your kids, if you want to watch it with your nephews, whatever, or if you want to watch it by yourself. There's definitely a lot we can learn and a lot we can laugh about through the family in the Tanner house.
Yep.
And once you're done with Full House, there's also the sequel, right? Fuller House on Netflix. And feel free to check out Family Matters too. It's a great show, a lot of lessons.
And I was going to say, as I said earlier, Steve Urkel also makes a crossover appearance in Full House. So if you're like I am, where you want to watch every episode, or you want to make sure there's a connection, then I would say probably watch them all. Yeah,
and then watch Family Matters, get to know Steve Urkel. He's one of the most classic TV characters. Most people know who Steve Urkel is. Because he just was so funny. He was such a great character. So check out those 2 shows. But this week's winner of the showdown is Full House.
And our next segment is Line 'em Up. Tell them how it works, Squiggy.
Alright, so line 'em up. The way this works is, today Duke is going to give us his list of 10 things from a specific topic. So in the past we did soda brands, if you remember, in one of our past podcasts. But in this episode, he's going to give us his top 10 with the category movies that should never be remade or rebooted. So movies that just should be left alone. They're good the way they are. Just leave it and don't try to remake them. So, with that being said, we'll start at number 10. Duke, what's your number 10 pick?
The Godfather.
Oh, The Godfather, right? Marlon Brando.
Yes.
Okay, and why don't you think that one should be remade?
Because it's a classic, first of all, and it was well casted, and the acting was really good, and like, in my opinion, after the first one, I didn't feel 2 or 3 was nearly as good as the first one, and if they couldn't be as good as the first one, there's no way a reboot or a remake will do it justice.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this, just to make things a little interesting. If The Godfather was to be remade, right? And they called you and they said, you know what, Duke? We want you to cast The Godfather. Who would you cast to play Don Corleone?
Ooh, that is really a tough call. Now, I'd probably pick Robert De Niro because, for the reason in the second one he did portray the father in the second one in like the younger days. So that's probably the only reason I can do that.
Okay, so you think even at his age now, Robert De Niro would be the best choice, you think?
Well, yeah, older.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool then. But in your opinion, leave it as it is, right?
Yes, leave it as it is.
Okay, cool then. So number 10, The Godfather. Now we're moving on down to number 9. Number 9.
Back to the Future.
Okay, I 100% agree with you here. Back to the Future, such an awesome movie. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, very memorable and like very well created, and I consider it timeless. And
yeah, I actually, growing up, I never got to watch it. It wasn't until I met my wife that she like really hyped it up and she made me watch it, and I was like, thank you, because I was missing out on such a great story. You know, the way that even the way that their costumes are designed, the way the time travel is done, it's just really clever. And if you haven't watched Back to the Future, I highly recommend it. Now, again, I'm going to ask you with this question. If Back to the Future was remade, who would you cast to play Doc and Marty?
I honestly cannot. First of all, I would not want to be in that situation, so I'd have to say no. I would refuse to do that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You have the right to do that. You know, I did have one idea that came across my mind one day, and it was because I've noticed, you know, they're remaking a lot of movies, they're rebooting it, sequels, whatever. So I was thinking it would be pretty cool. Now, I don't know, because it's a very risky thing to add on to such a classic movie, you know? I was just thinking that if they were thinking of rebooting or whatever, and I had some say in it, I feel like kind of a interesting storyline would be that Marty McFly's son, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somehow like he's never heard about like what happened. He has no idea about what his dad went through, you know? So I think it'd be interesting if one day, like if the movie revolved around the idea that one day Marty McFly's son actually comes across like the DeLorean, or comes across some type of thing related to the movie, the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then through that something happens, and pretty much now Marty McFly's son has to somehow go back all the way to the same night to help Marty help his parents get together. You get what I'm saying? You know how Marty helped his parents get together?
Yes.
Now, if something had gone wrong, then Marty McFly's son somehow went back in time and played a role in that very night, helping Marty to put his parents together. So it's kind of like a very like an Inception type of thing, like a dream within a dream. So it's like a story within a story. But I feel like that would be pretty interesting if done correctly. That's the main point. If done correctly. And if I had to cast someone to play Marty McFly's son, I feel like nowadays with his repertoire, I would say probably Tom Holland. I feel like Tom Holland could bring a good
I could see that. He could probably fit that role.
yeah, I think that would be pretty interesting. So I don't know, it's just an idea I had, and who knows, maybe someone at Universal who has some kind of pull hears this and then they decide to do it. That would be pretty awesome. But I do think that the original Back to the Future should stay the way it is. So I agree with you 100%, Duke.
Yep.
All right, moving on to number 8 pick. What's your number 8 pick?
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. Okay. Now, why wouldn't you want to see a remake of that?
Because it's fine the way it is. They did really well with those, so I see no reason for it to be recasted, rebooted, let alone even make another sequel or something.
Now, if there was another sequel, if they decided to add another one, like Star Wars, for example, for a long time it stayed the way it was, and then all of a sudden, boom, episode, was it 7? Yeah. With Force Awakens, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if Lord of the Rings decided to do something, because there's The Hobbit, but that's a prequel, right?
Right.
But let's say something went wrong at the end of Lord of the Rings, and then it caused another, ripple. I don't know. Something could happen.
Right.
Or, would you watch that movie?
That really depends on... I would have to, really think about it and stuff. It depends on what other people tell me about it, the reviews, and I would just have to, do my research and make a decision to either give it a try or not. And it really depends. Yeah.
No, what about, let me ask you this. What if they did not like a standalone or a side film about Gandalf?
That could be interesting. Yeah.
Kind of not necessarily an origin story, but kind of what was Gandalf up to, before everything happened and stuff like that.
Right.
I think that's a really good. I think Ian McKellen was awesome as Gandalf, and he's great as Magneto too. So he's just a good actor. But okay, so Lord of the Rings coming in at number 8. Okay, now moving on to number 7. What's your next pick?
Goodfellas.
Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Ray Liotta, right?
Yes.
Joe Pesci.
Yes. And Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
What's Robert De Niro's name when he's a mile away from you?
What's his name when he's a mile away from me?
You don't know? It's a
Nope.
joke. Robert DeFaro. Robert De Niro. Robert DeFaro. And it's kind of a bad joke, but I like those kinds of silly puns.
Right.
So Goodfellas, huh? I actually haven't seen that one. I started watching it, didn't get a chance to finish it, but I definitely want to. I only got to that one scene when it's like, what's funny, huh? Why are you laughing or something? Which I thought was so intimidating, it was really a good insight into what it was like being around those guys. So you wouldn't want to see that recast at all?
No, there's no way they could, there's no way, I don't think they could really do it justice.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Alright, so number 7, Goodfellas. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. Number 6,
Braveheart.
That's Mel Gibson, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, where do you stand on that? Why not? Why not think about it? If they remake it, they have a lot of technology now they didn't have back then. Maybe they could bring something to the table that they didn't have back then. But I want to know, why does Duke not want that movie? Don't touch it. Don't touch my drum set.
Because yet again, it was well casted in. It's one of those period dramas, I believe, and it's not like it needed any type of special effects for what time it was set in.
Yeah.
And it just wouldn't work.
Okay. Now let's say Braveheart, just to make things interesting, let's say Braveheart wasn't released ever, but they were going to release it now. Who do you think would be a good candidate to play that role?
I have no answer for that. I just can't see anyone else but Mel Gibson.
How about The Rock?
The Rock.
Imagine The Rock in Braveheart.
Well,
That'd be pretty funny.
yeah, but then it would look too close to some of his other films. Like, remember The Scorpion King?
Oh yeah, that's true.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I know, like, that role is definitely some big shoes to fill.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what? We'll leave it at that. Let's not touch Braveheart. Coming in at that was number 7, right?
That was number 6.
Number 6. Okay. Coming in at number 6, Braveheart. Now moving on down to number 5.
Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon. Another Mel Gibson, right?
Yes.
And
Danny Glover.
Danny Glover. Okay. And now there's a lot of them, right?
Yes, there's like 4 of them.
Okay.
I know they also had a TV show, but that I'm not necessarily counting.
And you wouldn't even be interested in like a sequel?
A sequel, yes. As long as they have the same cast. But
Okay.
I mean, I'm talking about if they try to remake and
Oh,
reboot
okay,
it.
with new actors and
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like movies that do that, it just really ruins it, you know? Like I feel like there's a certain amount of time that should pass before you even touch a movie, you know?
Right.
For example, last night I started watching Ocean's 11 with George Clooney.
Right.
Have you ever seen it?
No, I have not.
Yeah, and actually that's a reboot or a remake of an old movie called Ocean's 11. So it's kind of interesting how technically, like, to us, or to me at least, I thought that was an original movie, but it wasn't. It was actually a reboot. But enough time has passed by that I didn't even realize, you know, that it was already existing.
Right.
So I feel like definitely a lot of time should pass before a movie is remade, like, so that a newer generation can experience it in a way that's more enjoyable to them, you know?
Right.
So yeah, I feel like a lot of movies, they make the mistake of rebooting or remaking them too soon. But yeah, I guess Lethal Weapon would be one of those that should just stay the way it is, you know?
Yes.
Okay, so coming in at number 5, Lethal Weapon. Moving on to number 4,
Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind. Okay.
With Clark Gable.
Okay, and why
Yeah.
that one?
Well, it's another period piece. It was like during its time, it's like the filming of it is just fine. And like sometimes when they try to do period pieces in today's modern film and stuff, it's like it just doesn't really fit. The film look just doesn't always fit with back then. Like, let's say when you watch a Western today and stuff, it's either hit or miss. But if you look at old Westerns or time periods that were made a long time ago, way before our time, it just looked better that way because of the filming and stuff.
Yeah, I get you. It
And-
seemed more authentic.
Authentic and yeah, it should be left alone.
Okay. Well, there you have it.
Yeah.
Number 4. What was it?
Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind. I've never seen that one, so I can't really say much about this one, but I mean, if Duke recommends it, you know I'm gonna go watch it. So moving on to number 3,
The Never Ending Story.
Never Ending Story. Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of GIFs of this with the guy.
Yeah.
Okay, why not remake this one? I know this one could definitely use some CGI or something, you know?
Right.
But why not be remade?
Well, first of all, it was a childhood favorite.
Okay.
And I remember, like, I was satisfied with, like, the fantasy they had in that. And, sometimes some movies are just best left alone, and sometimes you just gotta accept that, hey, that was the time that movie was made, and it should be okay to accept that the effects weren't really perfect at the time.
Yeah.
Because if we try to remake everything, you kind of destroy. It's really disrespect to the original author, artists who put their time in that movie, and just to like have someone to like copy what they did or rip off what they did and like try to put something new on it. It's just very disrespectful, and just very disrespectful in my opinion.
I can see that. Also, when something is a childhood favorite, it definitely holds like a special place, you know, in your heart. But yeah, okay, so moving on to, so that was number 3.
Yes.
Number 3, Never Ending Story. Now moving on to number 4. Oh, sorry, no, we're going the other way. Moving on to number 2. Your number 2 pick, Duke.
Sling Blade with Billy Bob Thornton.
Sling Blade. Them taters. I seen that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was a pretty serious movie. It was a little dark, but it definitely was. It was like I didn't know how to feel about it. Like if it was supposed to be heartfelt or it was supposed to be kind of like a thriller, but it was pretty good. What do you think?
Oh, it was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like if you like really understood the character where he came from, he was like really misunderstood, and like the stuff he went through and how. Yeah, like, and the fact it takes place in the South, and it kind of gives you an idea about how that culture is of them not being accepting of others or something.
Yeah.
And the fact that you really feel sorry for what he went through, and the fact that he tries to like at least make a change in his life, but it's like, but he's willing to go out of his way to help someone else out, even if it costs him to being put back in treatment and stuff.
Yeah, I know. So, he really stood up for the little boy, right?
Right, and to me, he was a hero in that movie.
That's a good one. I actually had forgot about that movie. I watched it when I was younger, and I did enjoy it. So that's a good pick, Duke. So coming in at number 2, Sling Blade with Billy Bob Thornton. Now, our number 1 pick for today's Line 'em Up. What's it gonna be, Duke?
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Okay, I did not see that one coming. Forrest Gump. Now, why not?
Well, same reasons I've been saying, and yet again, it's like it's like kind of almost a period piece in a way, and I like how well they like made it look like he took part in those events and stuff.
Yeah.
And you kind of learn something from it. And plus, let's look at the cast. Really done well. You got Tom Hanks, Sally Field, Robin Wright, Gary Sensei, and the list could go on.
Yeah.
But yeah, and
Tom Hanks is awesome.
Right. And like for his character, very encouraging for those who have a disability. It's like nothing. Now, in some spots you can see maybe it was a little kind of far-fetched, because it's like realistically today, like if someone had some sort of a disability, you wouldn't get in the military. But it was still good that he was inspired. He could inspire those with the disability.
Yeah, that's true. It definitely was a heartwarming movie for sure.
Right. And he was also in the South, and how the South has that reputation for treating those who are different. So it's like, that's very encouragement right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact that he tried to stay loyal to his friend Jen, even though she wasn't loyal to him, which was unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. I agree. I totally like. I remember when I watched that movie for the first time, I was blown away by it. Like, I had never, because there's not really another movie like it, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Like, it's very unique, and there was something about it that definitely, there's like a word for those type of movies. It's called, I can't think of it right now, but there's just those movies that are like heartwarming and just like feel good movies, you know?
Right.
So like, just, of course, like he went through a lot of stuff, but in the end, like he came up, you know, like still standing strong, which was awesome.
Oh yeah.
So,
and I would watch that movie over and over, even when I was a kid. That's how good it was, or that's how good it still is
yeah,
to this day.
Yeah. So that's definitely a good choice, Duke. So coming in at number 1, I did not see this coming, but you know what they say, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
Right. And if they try to remake this, it would be like, it's like, you never know what they're going to make and how bad they're going to make it.
That's
it's
true.
Like, yeah, you don't know if they would make those box of chocolates really good by rebooting this movie. It turns out to be bad.
Yeah.
If they reboot it.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it could be semi-good, but still, you're never going to do it justice.
There's no promises, right?
And bottom line, be original. Come up with something original. That's why these movies worked the first time, because people were being original.
Yeah, there you go, people.
Yeah.
If you're listening, movie makers, script writers, directors, Duke Magnum's got advice for you. Be original. In anything that you do, you know? In anything that you do, artists, musicians, whatever, be original. I know it's hard in this not time of day, but in this day and age, you know, because there's so many things have been done. But if you put a little thought into it, be original, make it your own, put a twist on it, do something different, because, you know, sometimes people get tired of the same old thing. So definitely, Duke Magnum has some great advice right now. Be original, and I 100% agree with that. So that brings us to our close for the line 'em up top 10 Duke Magnums movies that should not be remade or rebooted. Now, I know Squiggy's just here to be the co-host, but I did have a couple movies that I wanted to mention that I feel should not be rebooted, because they just have such a nice place in my heart, but also they just work the way they are, you know? So I believe, personally, my honorable mentions, Squiggy's honorable mentions, first one is E.T.
Oh, I agree with you 100%.
Now, don't get me wrong. I know the puppet and everything, the little alien, well, obviously the E.T. It's not the greatest, you know, I get that. But it doesn't matter, you know?
Right.
It's just the overall movie. It's like a classic, you know?
Right. Sometimes you just have to use your imagination when watching it. Pretend all the effects are good.
Yeah.
Use your imagination. Like, imagine if they had to rewrite books because they're on cleaner pages or words are bigger. It just doesn't make sense. It's like,
That's true.
you
That's
just
a
got to
good
use your
example.
imagination.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, you know, I've always encountered like friends or people I knew in the past that they would say, "Oh, I didn't watch that movie. It was too fake." That's what they said. And I was like, well, what do you want? You want to go watch a movie about a guy that goes grocery shopping and then goes to the car wash? Like, no one wants to watch that, you know? Oh, I'm not going to watch Transformers because it looks too fake. I don't like James Bond movies because it's just too fake. Like, are you kidding me? Like, why would you want to watch something? Like, the whole purpose of watching a movie, I feel,
make believe.
yeah, it's getting an escape from reality, to enter this world created by someone, to see something happen in a make-believe place, yeah, or in an alternate reality or whatever, you know what I mean?
Right, and we got so many shows these days are relying heavily on being realistic, that people are getting used to it, that they're getting entitled, that they don't know how to use their imagination or think outside the box.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and that's what's presented some problems with some superhero movies, because they wanted to try to be realistic.
Yeah.
Newsflash, doesn't work.
Exactly. So, yeah, 100%, you know, make believe, you know, use your imagination. So this episode is just full of inspirational stuff. Be original, use your imagination, you know? So I definitely feel like that's one movie, E.T., that should just not be remade or rebooted. I feel like just leave it the way it is, you know? It's a touching and heartwarming story, you know? And it teaches kids also to appreciate like things of the past, you know?
Right.
So in my opinion, I feel like that's one good honorable mention. Leave E.T. alone. So there you have it, Squiggy's honorable mention. So we're bringing this week's segment, Line 'em Up, to a close. And now we come to our last segment of the podcast, which is Chew on This. Now, Duke, what is it this week? What is the thing that you want these listeners to open up their mind, to just expand their horizons, to give something a shot, something that they haven't experienced before, that they haven't watched, they haven't read, they haven't listened to? What do you got for us this week, for this week's Chew on This, Duke?
For Chew on This, I recommend top albums by Weird Al to listen to. Like, my favorite ones that I think, like, out of all his discography, like, I have to, like, maybe choose 5 that I think are worth listening to. In 3D, Dare to Be Stupid, Even Worse, Off the Deep End, and Poodle Hat.
Okay. So, for those listeners who are listening and they don't know anything about Weird Al, why don't you tell us a little bit about him? What does he do? He's a musician, obviously, right?
Yes.
Okay.
He's known to do parodies of other people's music.
Okay.
And make them funny. And if you listen to his albums, he always has a polka medley.
Polka, that's funny. That's different. See, that's being original.
Yes. And he'll like sing part of other people's songs in his polkas.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's cool. So Weird Al albums. If you haven't given it a shot, give it a shot. You know, there's no harm in listening to some music. And, you know, I've heard them myself. They're pretty funny. They're funny to listen to. They're a brightening part of the day, you know. Just put them on and get a nice laugh, you know, when you're not listening to the Weekly Bubble. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so you heard it here. Duke Magnum's Chew on This for the week. Those top 5 Weird Al albums. Give them a listen. Let us know what you think. Also, leave a comment below about what you thought about today's showdown. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Family Matters, Full House. What do you think? Which show did you like more? Also, if you have any other movies that you think should not be remade and we did not mention them, comment them below. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say. So other than that, Duke Magnum, do you have anything else to say to the people out here?
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode. And remember, stay positive. Don't let anyone burst your bubble. See you next week.